Our Just Baseball show coming your way in 30 minutes. And by the way, it's pretty much time for all of you to get involved and watch this program because football season's coming to an end and baseball season's coming fast and furious. So let's bring in Jack McMullen of Just Baseball. He also does the radio play-by-play for the Miami Marlins radio network. And Jack is here with us now. Jack, great to catch up with you and go through the hot stove. Last time we talked, it wasn't really percolating here, but I figured it'd be a good idea to recap some of these signings.
100%. And Craig, it seems like baseball is ruined in the last week, right? I mean, last time you guys had somebody on, it didn't feel like the world was crumbling on the baseball front, but now it feels like the world is crumbling. A la, oh man, Chicken Little. Did you ever watch that movie? That's the one
Yes,
like
I do
that
remember
jumps
that.
out to me. The sky is falling, and it feels like how baseball fans are interpreting the last 5 days of news.
Yeah, and I get it and I understand it. I would also say I think this is all coming to an end pretty soon. But for the time being, we got to deal with it. Kyle Tucker, who was arguably the top free agent out there this offseason, waited 3 months to just go to the Dodgers. Like, I mean, we couldn't we have done this in day one and just got this over with? But I suppose didn't love that 10-year deal that Toronto had reportedly out there for him and wants to put himself back in a position, maybe coming off the year that he had last year to go back to free agency in a few years. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I am not, Jack, I am not a fan of this move. Like, I'm also not a fan if they get Freddie Peralta too. Like, I think there comes a point where enough is enough. I would say, Jack, that to the Dodgers' credit, as I've stated here and everywhere else, they're playing within the rules that they have been given. But I do think that, in my opinion only, that we have a broken system here that's going to take some fixing here because this is now getting out of control, in my opinion.
Yeah, I won't speak to the system itself, but I will say I'm not a fan of it either. Like I'm not a fan of them just paying more money than everybody else. And I was trying to walk through, the other cases of them acquiring superstars. And I thought about Freddie Freeman. That was not the case because Freddie Freeman was kind of giving Atlanta the opportunity to bring him back. They opted not to, so he goes to the Dodgers. Mookie Betts was traded to the Dodgers. Tyler Glasnow was traded to the Dodgers. Blake Snell was a big money move. The one that this equates closest to for me is Tanner Scott last year, as weird as that sounds. And Tanner Scott, a bullpen
Yeah.
arm for them that was incredibly underwhelming. But the reason I say that is everybody wanted Tanner Scott. 30 teams are in the market for a very good left-handed reliever, but it was the Dodgers that said, you know what? Let's just give this guy $70 million and nobody else is going to come close to that and we'll have him and he's ours. And if he's disappointing, whatever, it's okay. We take our lumps and move on and we sign Edwin Diaz as well. To me,
Right.
this is that because there were so many teams that wanted Kyle Tucker's services, and the Cubs had him last year. The Cubs were possibly thinking about a reunion during the 25 season. It didn't seem like this offseason they were, signaling that they were pursuing that. But the Blue Jays could have used Kyle Tucker. The Mets could have used Kyle Tucker. The Yankees could have used Kyle Tucker. The Giants, the Red Sox. And then the Dodgers come in at $60 million a year. What are you supposed to do with that? And the argument that I dislike, to be honest with you, is oh, it's not a Dodger problem. It's a 29 other team problem for not forking up the money to be hyper competitive in baseball. And it's starting to be a Dodger problem because they're just hoarding all of the talent right now. And listen, if you got it, spend it, and that's clearly what they're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, no, definitely so. The one thing that I have stated, I don't know why anybody out there in the industry doesn't mention this at all when we talk about a potential collective bargaining and a cap and a floor. The reason why I personally think that had we have a salary cap and a salary floor in place, Jack, and I know that there's not too much you can do with this, but I'll say it and then we'll move on. Is and no one brings this up, only me, is that had this been in place, the reason why Tucker wouldn't have been a Dodger isn't because of that. It's because if there was, he would have got signed the first day of free agency and we wouldn't have had to go through all this. And some other team would have stepped up and done it, like in the NBA with LeBron James, like in the NFL, with whoever the best free agent is, those guys get signed right away. So there's no chance in 3 months for the Dodgers to just sit back and go, okay, if you don't like what you get, come back in 3 months and talk to me. That's not the way that it works. Some team would have stepped up, paid him what he wanted, filled their cap money up, and that would have been it. No one brings this up, but I will. Okay. Bo Bichette. So the Mets thought they were getting maybe Kyle Tucker, and then they pivot oddly to Bo Bichette, and the Mets, without a doubt, amongst the top teams, have had the strangest offseason, without a doubt. Going through some changes, wanting to get better in certain ways. attempting to sign players, clearly didn't get them. If they wanted a different look to their team, Jack, they got it. Bo Bichette going to play the infield for Toronto. I don't know what kind of defense he'll be able to play at the position that they're asking to play. He's a phenomenal player, and I want to say that he's a great athlete, so he'll get it figured out and play at a high level too. But this is where I just wonder: is David Stearns, was this his plan going into the season? Did the owner come in and say, "Hey, do this, do that"? I would love to be a fly on the wall in that conversation.
Yeah, and gut reaction says no, this was not the plan, and this was a lightning quick pivot. Highly recommend you join us for the Just Baseball show coming up in about 23 minutes, because we got Buster Olney on, and Buster kind of walks through his line of thinking as well. And he effectively, I asked him, was this a panic point for the New York Mets? And he said, I think that's a fair word to use. If you didn't see Steve Cohen's "let me know when you see smoke" tweet before Kyle Tucker signed with the Dodgers, Buster seems to think that Steve Cohen was under the impression that they had the price point figured out for Kyle Tucker. Okay, they don't. Now what? And the fact that that signing happened about 15 hours after Kyle Tucker signs with the Dodgers tells you we got to throw money somewhere. And Bo Bichette is a fantastic player, to your point. He's an exceptional hitter. He is a near generational hitter. He is a below average defender at shortstop. What the New York Mets are going to ask him to do is play third base on an everyday basis. This guy was drafted out of high school, so there are no college stats in the Baseball Reference Registry. There's only his pro stats. This guy has not logged a single inning in his professional career at third base, and they're going to ask him to play third base every single day. And the question is, what's next for the New York Mets? Are they going to do the thing that the Yankees did last year when they didn't have to pay Juan Soto $765 million and they allocated 4 or 5 different ways? Are they going to go sign Framber Valdez right now? I have no idea. Maybe. They could trade a Brett Beatty in a package for Milwaukee's Freddie Peralta. There are a whole bunch of different ways that they can do this, but they clearly aren't done at this point.
Yeah, can't be. Got to get more pitching, without a doubt. All right, so under the radar, this is where you guys at Just Baseball can weigh in more than anybody else, is on this trade that the Angels, Rays, and Reds were involved in, which certainly is going to get no attention whatsoever when you have the Tucker signing happen. And so naturally, when the Rays are involved in a trade, I'm thinking to myself, okay, what do they know that I don't? Because 2 years ago, I was told Josh Lowe, top 5 prospect, maybe hitting wise in all of baseball. And this guy gets traded to the Angels. And so when the Angels make a move, I generally think, oh, they don't know what they're doing either. So that combo has me a little scared here, but I don't know a ton about these pitchers they gave up. And I wonder what the Rays see in Gavin Lux, who was just, unfortunately had a really, really tough year last year with the Reds.
I'll tell you, this put my brain in a blender. And I came away from this thinking maybe the Angels came out pretty well here going to get Josh Lowe. Josh Lowe hit 290 with about 20 to 25 homers 2 years ago. He's dealt with some injury in 24 and 25. He was underwhelming when he was on the field, but Josh Lowe still has that in him. The Angels just traded Taylor Ward to the Baltimore Orioles in November, and Taylor Ward was a guy that hit 40 homers this past year. They're not looking for 40 homers from Josh Lowe. They're just looking to replace that production. I'll steal a line from Moneyball, in the aggregate, right? You want to find a couple of guys in the aggregate to create Taylor Ward, and Josh Lowe is probably the best person to do that. Lux is a weird one, man, because he was traded for a top prospect and a competitive balance pick from the Dodgers to the Reds, and less than a year later, and an underwhelming year later, he's getting traded to the Tampa Bay Rays. But Tampa hardly ever loses on the trade front, so I'm curious what they see in Lux and pitchers. Cincinnati bolsters their bullpen. It was just a weird trade all around, and it happened 30 seconds after the Tucker news. I was just dumbfounded by that.
It did. Yeah, no, one definitely to keep an eye on. All right, let's do this. We're going to bring Jack back here for another 10-minute discussion here. When we come back next, the Braves make a huge move in the offseason to shore up the shortstop position, and then they lose the guy for months. So do the Braves recover quickly from this with their signing that they made this past week? We will talk to Jack about that next. Jack McMullen is back with us 15 minutes away from Just Baseball. Jack mentioned Buster Olney is going to be on the show, so that's pretty cool. Coming your way soon. Baseball's hot stove coming to an end, and spring training less than a month away, so we're almost right there. Jack, let's go back to last week. We got news. Man, unfortunate for the Braves. Feels like the Braves, man, constantly snaping with injuries, like every single year something. And this time, one that, how are they supposed to avoid this? We don't even really know what happened, because it happened apparently overseas. But Ha-Seong Kim, who was a fantastic signing, I thought, for them, perfect player for that team, going to miss months with an injury, a torn tendon that he suffered at his house or something like that. We really don't even know, so we're not going to speculate beyond that. They add Jorge Mateo, who is not Ha-Seong Kim. I understand that. But Jack, my interpretation here is that if everything else goes right for the Braves, I think they'll be just fine. Like to me, that's one of the more underrated teams going into the season because everything that can go wrong for that team did last year, especially with the awful start that they got. But never want to see something like this happen. Unfortunately, bad luck strikes again for the Braves.
Yeah, ever. And I saw a report from a pretty reputable reporter that he might have slipped on ice in Korea, which is such a brutal freak injury type of thing. You think about Chris Sale. He was opening a box or something. Maybe that was Madison Bumgarner
Yeah.
opening a box, and then all of a sudden they slice their hand and they're out for a couple of months. So hoping for a speedy recovery for Ha-Seong Kim. It just stinks for Alex Anthopoulos, who's the lead baseball decision maker for the Atlanta Braves. And the rest of the Braves, that they allocate $20 million towards this guy to plug up shortstop, a position they really haven't had since Dansby Swanson left for Chicago. And then all of a sudden that guy is out and you have to piecemeal it together again. They ran Nick Allen out pretty much every day last year. Nick Allen was one of the better shortstop defenders in Major League Baseball. Nick Allen was also the only qualified hitter in baseball with 0 home runs. So they didn't get any offensive production from the shortstop position. Ha-Seong Kim was dealing with injury when he signed that one-year deal with Tampa last year. He comes back. He's placed on waivers. The Braves grab him off of waivers in September, and he had a really good September. So consider it a month-long audition for a $20 million deal, and that happened. Where do you go from here? Jorge Mateo is incredibly fast. He has had seasons where he's been one of the better defensive shortstops in baseball, but he has regressed defensively over the last couple of years. And again, you run into the issue of not being able to hit. They made an
Right.
interesting trade with Houston about a month or two ago. They shipped Nick Allen, their everyday
Fun.
shortstop last year, to Houston for Mauricio Dubon, a utility man. Dubon is probably going to play shortstop most days for them, and that is an upgrade over what they had last year, but it's certainly not Ha-Seong Kim. So I feel for Atlanta. And to your point, one of my co-hosts, Peter Apple, made the case end of last week on the Just Baseball show. He thinks if the stars align, this could be the second best team in baseball. Now, everybody's playing for second, right? With the Dodgers doing what they've done
Sure.
over the last couple
Right.
of days. But why can't Atlanta, with that roster and a Spencer Strider bounce back and a Spencer Schwellenbach resurgence, why can't they be the second best team in baseball? They certainly can, but that candidacy just took a hit big time.
Yeah, definitely so. Definitely so. Good pitching too for them. Bolstered the bullpen. I like a lot of the moves that they made. The Red Sox we're far out from the Bregman move to the Cubs, so that's come and gone. But I did want to talk to you about their pivot, if there was a
Yep.
pivot here, in Ranger Suarez. So the Red Sox basically I don't know what else to call it here. I mean, they had money to spend. They chose to use the Bregman money, I think, on Ranger Suarez, who becomes their second or third best starter. The Red Sox rotation right now is as good as any, I think, in the American League. Crochet, Suarez, Gray, Bayo, Oviedo. This is really strong, at least to open up the year. I'm not sure the depth, obviously, beyond that still remains to be seen. But Philly, essentially gave no shot whatsoever to signing Suarez. So he took the best deal, probably the most money, I'm guessing, on the table to Boston. What did you make of that move?
Yeah, it was interesting. And I think pivot is a fair word. I thought this was a pivot from Craig Breslow and the Boston Red Sox, and it was a pretty darn good pivot. And, you've got guys, you mentioned unsure of the depth. The depth looks pretty good. They got a couple of good months out of Connolly Early, young left-hander last year, as well as Peyton Tolley, who was a breakout prospect for the Boston Red Sox as well. So those 5 that you mentioned in Crochet, Suarez, Gray, Bayo, and Oviedo, along with Early and Tolley and a couple of other standout pitching prospects. They just got Jake Bennett from Washington. It seems like starting pitching is not an issue whatsoever. They wanted Bregman. That's clear as day. And I think
Yeah.
that fan base was a little surprised and disappointed that they didn't go and get Alex
Yeah.
Bregman and bring him back. At this point last year, they had Alex Bregman and Rafael Devers. Now they don't have Alex Bregman or Rafael Devers. So what's the plan now? It seems like Marcelo Meyer, a young top prospect, is going to play third base for them pretty much every day, but you got Story at short. Rafael is probably in center. You have a surplus of outfielders. Is Duran going to get traded? Is Wilyer Abreu going to get traded? There are still more questions to answer. So it's a lot like what we were just talking about with the New York Mets. I know it's late in the offseason. It's January 20th. I don't think the offseason's done for the New York Mets. I also don't think the offseason's done for the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, definitely still players out there. Suarez is out there, and trades can be made. Eugenio Suarez is who I mentioned there. Maybe that's the plug-in for Bregman there. American League East odds, by the way, just to show you these, Jack. The Yankees still the favorites, despite not doing a heck of a lot, except for acquiring our buddy Ryan Weathers last week. They've got the
Yes.
Blue Jays at plus 260, Boston plus 310. Orioles plus 460, and the Rays. I don't know why the Rays have such long odds. I would never put them so long behind these other teams at 22 to 1. Jack, before we let you go, is it just as simple tonight when they reveal the Hall of Fame announcement that Carlos Beltran and Andruw Jones are the two next players to get enshrined in Cooperstown? I know there won't be a third, but is it just that simple, those two, and that's it?
I would think so. Going to be really happy for Beltran, Andruw Jones as well. Paul Hembekides came on our show the other week and said if he had one vote, it would be for Andruw Jones. I kind of agree with him. He's like number one on my power rankings right now. I don't think Felix Hernandez is close right now, but I do think eventually Felix Hernandez will be a Hall of Famer. I just wonder when that's going to happen. But yeah, I don't want to, jinx it, but an early congratulations to Carlos Beltran and Andruw Jones. And those are two guys that I remember vividly the middle and end of their career. I'm sure you remember, their career in their entirety. And
Yeah.
boy, those guys were fun to watch. Andruw Jones, everybody
Yeah.
laid out in their front or backyard pretending they were Andruw Jones, right? Just like the Derek Jeter jump throw.
Definitely. So, Jack, great stuff as always. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. And then, of course, at FanFest as well. Thanks again for coming on. Appreciate it.
Perfect. South Florida living soon.